Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Caper Sara and we're keeping it geekly with our new guest, Jim Ousley. We're here to break down the Atonement Bell issues 1, 2, and 3, and everything in between. Jim, welcome to the stream. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. You know, when you have an indie comic, it's so hard to get the word out there and get your name heard above the fray, you know. So podcasts like this are just incredible. So thank you for having me on.
Podcasts like this are only made possible by the guests that choose to come on, though. I was just talking about this last night, like how grateful I am, because, you know, you guys are always like, hey, thank you so much, but I don't think you realize, like, without you guys, there is no content for the show, right? Like, it's kind of like it goes both ways scenario.
Well, that's the great thing about comics, I think, and that's one thing that really hasn't changed. You know, in the entertainment business, like at movies and TV, things have transitioned to streaming and all these changes have happened, but comics have always been about and remain kind of like the symbiotic relationship between creators and fans and press, and you're a creator as well. So it's like a mutual delightful thing.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is like getting to talk to creators and learn, you know, how your mind works and how the creative process looks like for you, because it's different for a little bit of everybody. And I think that is like the perfect room for us. You know, let's start with a simple introduction to who you are and how you got into creating comics.
Oh, sure. Well, my name is Jim Ousley. I'm the writer of Butcher Queen, Black Star City, Butcher Queen, Planet of the Dead, and the new horror series, The Atonement Bell. And I started about 10 years ago, I guess. There's a collective in St. Louis of artists and writers. They get together once a month at a designated, you know, pub or whatever, restaurant, whatever. And the artists mingle with the writers, and it's always open to new people. So before I've been writing screenplays with my buddy Oscar Madrid. And so we both started wanting to get into comics. And so we went to an Ink and Drink meeting and just got started there. And what's really cool about Ink and Drink is that they actually publish two anthologies a year, each one with a different theme.
That's cool.
Yeah, and so we were able to write stories and learn how to write comic scripts and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and it was fantastic.
So, I mean, learning on the fly has to have some pretty big benefits, right? Like, it kind of feels like you would get like a jump start into, you know, like almost like a cheat code, right? Like all these creators can be like, well, this is the way you do it, instead of going through all those years of trial and error.
Oh, absolutely. You know, the people that run it were very knowledgeable, and everyone there was very helpful. And it was a great way to start. I mean, I feel really lucky, you know, by having met them. I actually got involved through my friend Jason Green, who's one of the editors at Ink and Drink Comics, and he's now my editor for
that's so cool.
The stuff that we do for Red 5. Yeah.
So, were you ever involved in any of the anthologies that the Ink and Drink published?
Oh yeah, we did. Oscar and I both collaborated on stories with different artists, and I did my own stories as well. I think I was in, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 anthologies, maybe.
Wow! So was that like some of your first jumps into comics?
It was, yeah. And the way that it works is when you first begin working with them, they allow you to do a 4-page story. And then that could be bumped up to 8 or 9 pages once you've had one published. And so, we followed that whole
that's so cool.
The whole trail, and it was great, and it was a lot of fun too. And I made a lot of good friends through working with them, which is wonderful as well.
What was it like working with an artist for the first time and getting like sequential art for your words?
Well, for one thing, it was really exciting. You know, having never done it before. But yeah, and I think for me that's really not changed. I mean, when you write a script and you're working in comics, it's so important that the words and the artwork have a synergy, and that's not necessarily an easy thing. So I've been really lucky to work with artists who were super talented, like Ben Sawyer, Tyler B. Ruff, who's the artist on the Atonement Bell.
Yep.
It never stops being exciting to see your words come to life in the sequential panels, and to see with the artist how the artist interprets your words and all that kind of stuff. It's really fun.
We have Mama Geekly over on Facebook actually saying she loves the windows on cover A. I think that is Tyler's cover, right?
It is, yeah. Tyler did that cover, and that's my favorite cover of the whole series. It's just, I've got a poster of it actually in my office here. Yeah, Tyler actually. So the story takes place in our hometown in St. Louis, and this is the first thing I've ever done that takes place here in our city, and. Our city has a really unique architecture and culture, as troublesome as it can be sometimes, but it has so many great things to offer as well. And Tyler actually was so true to the aesthetic of St. Louis. If you read the series, you can get a pretty good sense as far as the aesthetics go of what it's like to be there. He did just a remarkable job.
So was there a lot of weight to making sure it was done correctly, being from that area?
Yes and no. I mean, so what Tyler did, Tyler was from here also, but he would drive around and take photographs. And there was even there's a scene that takes place on the Metrolink, which is sort of like, kind of like the L in Chicago, sort of. It's a public transport. And he needed pictures of that. So I bought a ticket on the Metrolink and just snapped some shots on there. And did like a round trip back home and sent him the picture. So everything you see as far as, what's represented in the city is 100% accurate. And I really can't say enough about how good of a job he did. And it was, for this particular story, it was essential that we had it in St. Louis because of the various themes and, what happens in the story itself.
So you two ended up meeting during the Ink and Drink, or one of the anthologies during the Ink and Drink? Actually,
no. What's funny is he was a part of Ink and Drink Comics as well, but we never actually met. We met for the first time doing a free comic book day signing. Our tables were right next to each other, and he writes a series called The Unforgiven, which you can find on social media. I think it's We Are the Unforgiven, I think. But it's a really great series, and I really liked his artwork. And what I liked in particular about his artwork was his ability to express emotions, through the characters' faces, the acting, and you'd be surprised how hard that is for a lot of artists to do, But Tyler excels at it, and the story is really a character-driven story, and it was so important to capture their faces, because there's a wide range of emotions, and it was the right decision. I got really lucky by meeting him. He did such a good job.
So was he involved on Butcher Queen Planet of the Dead issue 1, or did you have a different artist for that?
That was my co-creator, Ben Sawyer. He and I did that together, and he was the artist on the first two series. The first series, I think you could still pick up issues online, but that's collected in a trade paperback that's out. And the second series, the individual issues are available for that as well. But he's the artist on that one. Ben actually did the colors on the Atonement Bell.
Oh, really? What a small world.
Yeah, he's still in the mix.
So for everyone watching, right here is a link to check out Butcher Queen. This was the first work you had get picked up by Red 5 Comics, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's correct.
So what is Butcher Queen about? I mean, it seems like you have a theme with like horror and death. I mean, I'm definitely loving it.
Well, the Atonement Bell is definitely a horror series. Butcher Queen is more of a cyberpunk series, noir series with touches of horror in it. Butcher Queen is actually the nickname of Detective Sid Kiowa, who was on the police force, and her partner had been killed by a cult, and she kind of lost her mind for a while. She wipes out the cults, and then she becomes a fugitive from the police. And what happens is she becomes a mercenary and collects these misfits along the way, along her travels, and becomes a fighter for people who can't fight for themselves.
Oh, ultimately. I love it.
And throughout the two series, she kind of finds her soul again, and finds her moral compass and her purpose. And outside of all that stuff, it's just a really fun adventure, a sci-fi cyberpunk adventure. And I'm still really proud of the series. I couldn't be more pleased with the way it came out. And Ben did everything on that. He did the Well, I wrote it, but he did the art, the colors, and the lettering as well. So he was, he did all that stuff.
And I mean, you must have grew like a cult following, because after that you ran a Kickstarter for the Atonement Bell issue 1, hit what, $11,000. Congratulations! Was that your first Kickstarter?
Thank you. No, actually, that was my fourth Kickstarter. Yeah.
So I was gonna say, man, like that is a killer number, especially for an issue 1 like that.
Well, it just so what happens is for the first 2 Butcher Queen series and the Atonement Bell, we actually did a Kickstarter for the whole series, not just issue 1 and then one for issue 2 and everything else. So it just took a lot of work. And have you ever run a Kickstarter for anything before?
Nope.
Okay,
I just talked about a whole lot of them. I know it can be stressful.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, when you decide to do a Kickstarter, you really do have to live it for the entire 30 days that you do it. Every single day, it's all that's on your mind. Because you want to tell your story, and you want to have it done right. And luckily for me, it just, with a lot of hard work, we were able to do it.
So issue 3 just dropped in comic stores just recently. Does that mean issue 4 is already completed? You're just waiting to drop it?
Oh yeah, yeah. The whole series.
Oh, that's
is
awesome.
Done. Yeah, the whole series has been done for a bit, and issue 4 will come out probably a month from now. Yeah.
What was some of the drive to do a whole series instead of like an issue 1 and 2? I mean, to knock out 4 issues in one Kickstarter, that seems like that would add a lot of stress in itself.
Yeah, it was pretty stressful. And when you're working with a publisher, there's deadlines, and that's a whole other layer of stress. But that's just part of the business. You've got to pay attention to the deadlines and things like that. But I never wanted to do just one issue that tells part of the story. If I'm going to commit myself to it, I want to tell the whole story. And when you work with a publisher, they don't want just one issue; they want the series. And so that was just sort of the logical way to go. The first 2 Kickstarters that I did, one was with my buddy Oscar. We co-wrote a action comedy anthology called The Rough and Tumble, and then I did a horror anthology called The Dead Palace, which I'm hoping to get out there digitally soon, because right now it's just in trade, and those are all sold out. But yeah, as far as the series, I can't just tell one part of a story.
Yeah,
I've got to tell the whole thing. Otherwise it's like, and I know people do that, and hats off to them. That's great. Different strokes for different folks, but I really wanted to tell the whole story.
So, I mean, we dabbled a little bit around it, but what is Atonement Bell exactly about? I mean, I know we have horror elements of it. From what I've read description-wise, it seems like just a brutal experience for a family to go through. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, so the family really gets put through the ringer. So what it's about is a mother and her son. He just recently lost his father, her husband, and it's around the Christmas time. And so they travel into St. Louis to visit with a estranged family and kind of like, rebuild the bridge and, get back in touch again, which they do. Unfortunately, what they come upon ultimately is a struggle between the Catholic Church or I should say more of a mystery, involving the Catholic Church and a coven of witches, and a decades-long ritual, and it's a wild ride.
So
it's really fun.
Going from cyberpunk to religion taking on witches. I mean, that's 2 different ballparks. How does it feel to be playing in a world that's totally different from Butcher Queen?
I think for me, it's more about the characters that you're working with. So what I loved about Butcher Queen is the character of Sid Kiowa, exploring whatever world she had to be placed in, and it was kind of that way with the Atonement Bell. I love our protagonist, Jake, his cousin, Baby Al, and their Bosnian friend Sara, and it's just, I grew up in the Catholic Church, and having grown up in St. Louis, which is a very Irish Catholic community, and that coupled with all the issues that St. Louis has as far as sociopolitical, racial issues that happen, and how the church reacts to that. It was, to me, ripe for a horror story. And it's, there are some really serious things that happen in the series, but there's also just, a lot of fun as well. I mean, the characters, particularly Baby Al, is just a blast to write for. He's sort of like the ironic commentary to what is going on. He's kind of a bit of a shyster, a bit of a smartass, So it's been really a joy to write, and it's one of those experiences where when I was finished writing the series, I was like, I'm gonna miss these guys.
Yeah.
It's true, and I'm really, out of anything I've ever done or been a part of before, the Atonement Bell is the thing I'm absolutely most proud of.
So we have Tyler B. Ruff as the artist. Can you give us a rundown of the rest of the creative team involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tyler B. Ruff is the co-creator, and he did all the artwork. He did the pencils and inks. We have Benjamin Sawyer, who was the artist on Butcher Queen, and he did the colors on the Atonement Bell. And we have Ed Dukeshire, Eisner-nominated letterer, who's doing the lettering for the Atonement Bell.
That's awesome.
And working with Ed too, that's something else. Working with someone who specializes in lettering, like that's their main thing, really makes a difference as well. He's as big a part of as anybody else is, in making the story a success.
What were some of the things he did differently that the first time around you didn't experience with the Queen Butcherer?
So I think with lettering, Ed, it's so much of it is conveying the personality and context of what's being said. Mm-hmm. And so there's things, what do you italicize? What do you bold? A good example is there are a couple of characters in the story that we call the Blood Children. And they are, let's say this without giving too much away, they're spirits. But they, when they talk, their dialogue is in red balloons and white letters. And you think, oh, that's cool, but I can't imagine why that'd be a big deal. But when you're reading the book, when you're immersing yourself in the story, that goes a long way into drawing you closer in. Because you're reading it. It's a visual experience. So when you see them, with those balloons, with that kind of font, it makes it just a little more creepier.
Yeah, eeriness.
And it really pushes you, and which is exciting. It's my first time I've collaborated with this many people on one project and having to sort of manage all that stuff. But it's been delightful, and the results are really speak for themselves. I think. I hope people go out and check out the book.
So I know you said this is like one of your proudest works. I mean, how much changes did you see from like the original script working with your artist, and kind of just, were there any big changes, or did you let your artist kind of take the wheel when he wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, so as far as the script, there weren't many changes that I can think of. I mean, I have an editor, Jason Green, who I mentioned earlier, and I let him see the scripts first, and he'll say things like, oh, this could be a little bit better here, or you may want to, sharpen the focus of this over here, which is invaluable. I love getting criticism because it just makes you better.
Yeah.
And so, but as far as the script between, with the artist, it didn't really change. Nothing really changed. I mean, he did ask about certain things. Can I change how this looks, or how we're doing this? And I'd be like, sure. I'm all for the best idea. It doesn't all has to be about me. It's whoever has. If your idea makes it better, that's good with me. And we had a really good working relationship as far as that's concerned.
That's so awesome. So with issue 4 right around the corner, when can people expect to find that at their local comic book shop?
Well, yeah. So issue 3 came out today, as you said, and issue 4 will come out in about 1 month from now.
Okay.
And if you've been following the series, I don't think you'll be able to really see where this is going to end up. I really do feel like I landed the ending, though. I'm really satisfied with the ending. And if you've been following along so far, I think you'll be really satisfied with it.
So speaking of that, though, you're also having a collection of all 4 dropping soon, too. Right here is the link to this. So when can people expect the trade paperback to drop?
The trade is actually going to be, I think it's listed as April or May. It's going to be probably closer to June.
Okay.
But yeah, you can pre-order it now, and it's got all 4 issues on there. It's got a cover gallery of like all the variants.
Oh, that's so
all
cool.
the variant covers. Yeah, and it's got like an art gallery. I wrote a forward for it, and Tyler wrote an afterword. It's got some like a promotional gallery in there as well, all kinds of stuff. And I really wanted to make it a really cool, like for people who love the series, I wanted them to have something that they could buy where it's all collected, and it's extra stuff that they didn't get before. And if you've never read the series, obviously this is a great way to do it. You can just read it all in one sitting and have all the extra stuff there to explore.
So awesome. And right there is the link for everyone watching. If you're unable to pre-order, that is fine. Simply putting this on Facebook and Twitter, anywhere you can. Word of mouth is 100% free. You have nothing to lose simply just by sharing this. So Jim, what's next for you in 2023? I mean, outside of the Atonement Bell, do you have any other series or projects you're working on?
I've got a couple non-comics projects, but I am in the process now of working on a new project, starting to outline a new project. It's also a horror project.
Okay.
And it's going to be, it's it's pretty off the wall. So I'm pretty excited to get to work on that. So as far as this year, it's going to be, I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con with Red 5 Comics. And then I'll be at other conventions, hopefully this year outside of that. And really just, plug in the Atonement Bell and making sure people know about it and are able to get to it.
That's awesome. So before we let you go, Jim, I do have to ask one question in particular, because as much as this is a platform where we promote you and your work, it's also a nice show for anyone who might be new and listening, or maybe they're seasoned and they're kind of just hitting a dead spot in their writing and having trouble, doing so. So with that being said, for anyone out there looking to add depth to their character, as someone who just like kills it in that department, what would be some of your pieces of advice to help them kind of liven up their characters?
Oh gosh, well, there's a couple things that I try to keep in mind, and this is advice that someone gave me. Always be listening. And that means when you're out and about, learn to observe people and to really listen to people. It's inspiration every day. It really is. So you've got to keep your ears open to real life, and not video games, not other comics, but go out there and experience life. That's a big thing.
There's a life outside video games and comics?
Listen, I love those things as well. I'm just saying, if you write stuff, it's good to get out there and listen. And the other thing is to make sure that the stuff that you're taking in is sometimes out of your comfort zone. If you've never read Shakespeare, for example, check out some Shakespeare. Check out some weird Shakespeare, like Richard III, which is a really difficult one to read, but a great character study. Musically, if you like rap or you like metal or whatever, try listening to some jazz. Just little things like that can really tweak your brain and make different cylinders fire, and you'd be really surprised on what they could do for you to help. It helps me.
Absolutely. And guys, I mean, it's nothing, it really doesn't cost much to try something new. There's plenty of stuff out there, free resources where you can, go to the library, rent a new book that you haven't read, go on YouTube, listen to new music you haven't listened to. So the knowledge is right at your fingertips. You just have to put the effort in to achieve it. Jim, this is awesome chat. Thank you so much for swinging by. Everyone watching, here is the link. Be sure to pre-order that trade paperback when you can. We still have a month or two until it drops, so you have enough time to not only pre-order it, but share this with all your friends and family out there.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, it's, folks like you are invaluable to indie people like me, so thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you as well, because like I said, it's just an endless circle. We feed each other. Promotion for you guys and content for us. So it's a win-win across the board. Everyone watching, that being said, it is time for us to wrap up. I hope you all have a lovely new comic book day, but most importantly, guys, keep it geekly.